Imagine carrying something heavy all day, not in your hands, not on your shoulders, but in your mind. A single moment, a single mistake, a single comment someone made years ago. You replay it over and over. You think you've moved on, but somehow you're still carrying it. Today, I want to tell you a simple story about two monks. A story that is only a few minutes long, yet it contains a lesson that many people spend their entire lives trying to learn. And by the end of the story, you may discover that the heaviest things in your life are not the things you're carrying, they're the things you refuse to put down. Many years ago, two monks were traveling together. They had been walking for hours along a muddy road. The sky was gray, the ground was wet from recent rain. The journey was long, but both monks continued quietly. One was older and experienced, the other was younger and still learning. As they walked, they reached a river crossing. The water was shallow, but the mud near the edge was thick and slippery. Standing there was a young woman. She looked worried. She stared at the river, unsure how to cross. Every attempt seemed impossible. If she stepped into the mud, she would likely ruin her clothes and fall. So she stood there, trapped between moving forward and staying where she was. The older monk noticed her. Without hesitation, he walked over. "Would you like some help?" he asked kindly. The woman nodded with relief. The monk gently lifted her and carried her across the muddy section of the river. Within moments, she reached the other side safely. She smiled, thanked him, and continued on her way. The older monk then returned to the path. The two monks continued their journey. The entire event lasted only a few minutes. But for one of the monks, the story was just beginning. For hours, the younger monk walked in silence. At first, he tried to ignore what had happened, but the image kept returning to his mind, again and again. The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he became. His thoughts grew heavier with every step. Why did he do that? We're monks. We have rules. We avoid unnecessary contact. The younger monk replayed the moment repeatedly. Not for minutes, not for an hour, but for the rest of the day. The woman was gone. The river was far behind them, yet somehow he was still standing there in his mind. As evening approached, they finally stopped to rest. The younger monk could no longer contain his frustration. He turned to the older monk and said, "Master, I don't understand. We are taught to follow strict principles. We are taught to be careful. Then why did you carry that woman across the river?" The older monk looked at him calmly. There was no anger, no defensiveness, only a gentle smile. Then he gave a response that would stay with the younger monk forever. The older monk said, "I carried her across the river several hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" The younger monk froze. In that moment, he understood. The older monk had carried the woman for less than a minute, but the younger monk had carried the memory for hours. One had carried a person, the other had carried a thought, and the thought weighed far more. Think about your own life. How many arguments have already ended, yet still live inside your mind? How many embarrassing moments continue to replay long after everyone else has forgotten them? How many disappointments, regrets, or resentments are you carrying today? The event itself may be over. The person may be gone. The situation may no longer exist. Yet the weight remains. Not because life is forcing you to carry it, but because your mind keeps picking it up again and again and again. Our minds are incredibly powerful, but they have a tendency to hold on, to replay conversations, to analyze mistakes, to revisit old wounds. Psychologists sometimes call this rumination. It's the habit of mentally revisiting the same thoughts without finding resolution. The strange thing is that the event itself often causes less suffering than our repeated thinking about it. The river lasts a moment. The mind can carry it for years, and that's what makes this story so timeless. It reminds us that suffering isn't always created by what happened. Sometimes it's created by our inability to let go of what already happened. Tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself one simple question. What am I still carrying? Maybe it's an old argument. Maybe it's a failure. Maybe it's a version of yourself that no longer exists. Whatever it is, imagine setting it down. Not because it wasn't important, not because it never happened, but because carrying it any longer serves no purpose. The older monk understood something profound. Peace doesn't come from controlling everything that happens to you. Peace comes from knowing what to put down. And perhaps the moment you stop carrying yesterday is the moment you finally become free today. The past is a lesson, not a place to live. Thank you for watching. Until next time, take care of your mind. Subscribe for more psychology insights.